Hi, my name is Frederick Rosen, and I created and built Ticketmaster. And today I'm running another company that's in a different business. Ticketmaster really started as an inventory control system. Basically, if you go back to the early 80s, which is when I got involved, I think I became the CEO of a very little ticket company in 1982. It primarily provided, which is hard to believe in terms of 2006 sensibilities, season ticketing, single ticketing, which meant box office and outlets, all on one integrated system. That did not happen in those days. And phones were just beginning to happen outside New York, and the internet was non-existent. So in those days, what Ticketmaster could do was basically provide a box office inventory system essentially for arenas, stadiums, and for teams. How do people buy tickets? In those days, people used to camp out and buy tickets at outlets, or they'd camp out at the box office. What people forget is in the late 70s, early 80s, 60 to 70% of all tickets that were sold at the box office. One of the earlier companies that was involved, that was the biggest name, was called Ticketron, a company I ultimately bought. But what they did was they were among the pioneers, and they would take allocations, and so you never quite knew. They would sometimes do the whole box office, and sometimes, or do all the inventory, and sometimes they would get allocations. So people never knew if they would get best available seat, because you'd sometimes go to an event and there'd be a section that had you'd see empty sections, and then you'd see a section with people, and you go, that's the Ticketron section. And when we started, what we told people was that it was necessary for us to have the whole house, because the whole premise in the early 80s was selling best available seat. Today that's obvious, but it was not so obvious in the early 80s. And that way, when people came to your outlets, even the designation, we called our outlets ticket centers as opposed to remote outlets. And we came up sort of with the theory that a remote outlet meant a remote seat, and it's all marketing, all fun. Yeah, an allocation would be if there's take a stadium that would hold 45,000 baseball tickets. You'd get an allocation of 5,000 tickets, maybe in 3 sections. A spotter at this. We had spotters at different outlets, so we know this was a true story. So he says, I'll give you $200 a ticket. She says, no. He says, I'll give you $500 a ticket. She says, no. He says, $600 a ticket. She says, no. He says, young lady, $750, my last and final offer, yes or no? And she took the money. She got $3,000 and got back online, and then I'm sure she complained about paying the service charge. But the reality is that's the business. And what you see today is how that business has evolved. Is everybody's in the ticket business today. You buy tickets. I can't tell you how many schools I've been to where kids complained about service charge, and then I say, how many of you put yourself through school by scalping tickets or by resale? And quarter of the class's hand goes up. So it's kind of funny and kind of hypocritical, and it's led to eBay, and it's led to StubHub, and it's led to Tickets Now, and a whole host of basically resellers, because everybody's back in the business. Because here's the basic problem. In Broadway, a show will play as long as it can. And as long as it's making money, it plays. And they're all, the house is scaled, and that means there are, tickets from $100 to $50 or whatever it is, and it's scaled. The problem with music is it's not that music isn't scaled. Nobody ever meets the demand. So the very essence of why tickets become the prices they do is the act isn't sitting there for 9 nights, the act is sitting there for 1 or 2 nights, maybe 3 nights, or maybe, it's a super act and it's there for 5 nights. But the fact is, when you multiply that, take a metropolitan marketplace like Los Angeles or New York, you're talking about 20 to 30 million people in a 2.5-hour radius, and you've got 150,000 seats, and it's a one-time event. The thing about the live business is its immediacy. It's something you want to touch. And if you had 100 operators or even 200 operators, when you have people learned about speed dialing and rotary, because rotary phones were disappearing. And so you'd sit there and you keep hammering it. And then if you got through, you could order 6 or 8 tickets. Now, what's interesting is that today online for concerts, people will spend sometimes, and especially for theater, more time searching for good seats than they would on the phone. If they're on the phone for 10 or 15 minutes, they complain. But if they're sitting at their computer for a half hour, it's their time. So they can pick the show they want to go see, and they feel they're more in control of their own destiny as opposed to a third party. He said, I couldn't take it anymore. Broadway in Denver's a couple months. So why don't we give out seat locations and let's see what happens, okay? And lo and behold, here was the sea change. If I said to you, best available seat, and put you in the last row of the orchestra, because remember, outside New York, almost everything's limited run. It's not like we play until we run out. We play for 2 weeks here and then we go to another city, because Broadway touring is limited. So if I put you in the last row of the orchestra on Tuesday night, you leave that meeting and you say, or that play, and you go, they ripped us off. They said best available seat. It's the last row in the orchestra we got taken advantage of. Giving out seat locations, said we have no seats left in the orchestra. The only seats we have is the last row. Do you still want them? Because the theory was that people wouldn't buy the last row or the last rows in the orchestra. And here's what we found. Most people, 90 to 95% of people must go to theater in these limited runs based on the day they have. Not multiple times. Same in Broadway too. If I want to go Tuesday night, I got to go Tuesday night the 5th. I can't go okay? So they said, wow, we were lucky. We got the last seats in the orchestra. Every ticket I sell, it's in your interest to put my name, or Ticketmaster's name, not Fred's name, but the company's name, in your ads. That was unheard of in those days too. Now, as a result of that, when I left, Ticketmaster's name was probably being mentioned 15 to 20,000 times a day in America. Everybody's seen their logo slicks in and seen their logo in ads. And our marketing budget in those days was 0. So you got the benefit of having all of that because people understood that people don't want a contest of where to find your outlets. People don't want to really search to find your phone number. So by creating that and then through repetition, the key to selling tickets is repetition. The key to change is people only go to the outlet once if they don't have their tickets. So if I've been buying tickets at Music Store A, and for the let's take the Staples Center, and I go to Music Store A and they go, oh, we don't have that anymore. That's the beauty of exclusive. You find out, well, who sells the tickets? Music Store B. You never go back to Music Store A. Changing people's buying patterns are really simple. Today it's even simpler because phone numbers are easy to change, and the web is the web. You can go figure it out. But in those days, I remember some of the questions we would get was when we were in the Midwest, they said, Ticketron has an asynchronous power supply, so if there's a power outage, their machines will still be up. And you go, okay, but they'll be in a store that's on Illinois Power, so how's that going to help you? So while there's no light in the rest of the store, you're going to go buy a ticket? Do you hear what you're saying? And they'd look at you and they couldn't understand what you were saying. I don't like talking to people, and I don't like talking to you. And that was the conversation. And that sort of reinforced my view of the business. Now, the first month, we did $100,000 on the web with no promotion, no advertising. 100,000 of ticket sales. The second month, we did $1 million. The third month, we did $2 million. Then I knew we had something. I knew we had something really amazing. But I was leaving 3 months later. So for me, I remember one of the early adaptations, because people say, well, why should we pay service charges on the web? One of the big issues. Things are free. Well, tickets aren't free. Tickets aren't discounted. Ticketmaster doesn't own the plane. What they own is the service, right? And so somebody came in and said, everything is free on the web, so we should just do free on the web. And I said, fine, then your salary this week will be free too.